Really happy to have Dr. I here. He's a Harvard graduate, very, very acclaimed, honor after honor after honor, published after published after published. He is right now at NYP, Weill Cornell, I get that right?
Yeah.
And Columbia, and all those three together. I'm not sure what that all means, but he's got a really big job. And he works with a lot of patients like others in New York City, other doctors work with, but he has a really unique talent. And his talent is he actually is part of the family from the very beginning. Doesn't matter when that baby, it was found out the baby had a facial difference, either cleft, bilateral, unilateral, or any of the other syndromes. This man jumps in right away, and he becomes part of the family. And that is exactly what we try to do. He does it on the medical side, as well as working on the psychosocial side, bringing people in. But we just have the best synergy. Great doctor, incredibly gifted. We have programs that he wants his families to learn about. So it's a marriage really made in heaven. So we're gonna hear from Dr. I, and then there's Leah. Leah, another amazing MyFace mom. Really from Logan's birth, Leah gave up her career to raise Logan and has never stopped. And I met Leah about 5 years ago, and I'm in awe with this woman. Her energy, her plight, her I didn't know how to say this, but her willingness to just keep going for Logan is remarkable. And we're so happy that Logan is part of MyFace. And for all you ambassadors, we have, you know the grade 8 I talked about? It's actually the grade 9 now, because Logan has joined us officially as an ambassador. So we are really super excited about that. And then Justin, I gave you a little bit about Justin. We'll hear more about Justin. But Justin and I, became really close a couple of weeks ago, where he tested me, and I think I did okay, right, Justin?
Yeah, I think you did right.
All right, good. So I was really happy to know that. So why don't we just start off with Dr. Iwood? Just a really quick question. How did you become interested in the craniofacial community?
So, first of all, just thank you to everyone who's here tonight. As Bill said, we had a chance meeting, earlier this year, and it immediately struck me that Bill was taking MyFace in a direction that that I was really proud of, even though I wasn't part of it yet. In the direction of putting the people in the craniofacial community, people with facial differences, at the forefront of MyFace. And to make that switch in an organization which has had a long and storied history like MyFace has, I think, took a lot of vision, and of course, bravery, which Bill is known for. So I think, thank you to you for, doing what you're doing and getting us all together.
Speak into the mic.
Yeah. So my interest with the craniofacial community obviously stems from my practice. As Bill said, I am a craniofacial surgeon in New York. The vast majority of my practice is on the pediatric side with young children and their families that are born with craniofacial differences. As my practice grew, it became apparent to me that even as a surgeon, there was a lot of work that needed to be done outside of the operating room. My focus with the family started to shift from seeing the individuals as patients to seeing the individuals as people and wanting to do not surgery, but something to help lift up the whole person. And so as Bill said, I started focusing on the family unit. Like one of the things that became very clear to me was that when a child is born with a craniofacial difference, as a surgeon, I'm not just treating that individual, I'm treating the whole family. And the whole family needs support, and the whole family needs resources, and the whole family needs to be guided and hugged. And so that was really my first intention of working with MyFace. As Bill said, I sort of had worked a little bit with developing some prenatal programming. Prenatal means when we know that a baby is going to be born with a craniofacial difference before they're ever born. It is an opportunity for us to get ahead of the counseling, to get ahead of the connections that need to be made, to get prepared, but most importantly, to invite a new person and their family into our community. And from there, my interest as not just a surgeon, but as an advocate for the craniofacial community really grew, because I think that I obviously, you know, with my surgical talents, we try to do everything we can in that arena. But what we do in building individuals as people, building them up, and building up the community is even more important. So I'm thrilled to be here.
We love having you. So Leah, you know, you and Logan have exceeded what doctors once thought impossible. It's remarkable what you've done. How do you hold hope in moments when it's hard to see the path forward?
Hi, everybody. So, for me, public speaking is actually very difficult, but I'm going to try to stay composed. Anytime I talk about Logan, I get extremely emotional, so just bear with me, that goes that way. When he was born, I was told that he's not going to walk, he's not going to talk, he's going to have all kinds of delays, challenges. They don't know if he's going to feed himself, they didn't know if he was going to survive, like nothing. I did not know beforehand that he was going to have anything, let alone. He was born with microphthalmia, so no eyes. He was born bilateral cleft lip and palate. He had anal stenosis. They didn't know if it was a kidney thing. They didn't know if it was a syndrome, if he had a functioning brain. So all these things came at me when I'm thinking, I'm a first-time mom. I'm like, all my friends are having kids and everything is, you know, perfect. I went to school for speech pathology. I have a master's degree in audiology, and I was applying for my PhD in cochlear implantation. My passion in life was working with kids. I wanted, especially kids who were born with a hearing loss, I wanted to be that person, you know, who got them to hear. Now I'm in a position where my whole life just changed, you know what I mean? And now it's a vision thing, and like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to work again, is he gonna be okay? Is he gonna live past 3 months? So, did they give me a lot of hope? No. But I've always, you know, I had hope, yes. But hope is nothing without doing something about it, right? Actions. So little by little, action by action, it turned into triumph and a lot of failure, and this therapy doesn't work and that therapy doesn't work. But you know what? All of a sudden he started walking, and he started making sounds, and I noticed these things from music. And once I realized that he felt music, our whole world changed. And he's been playing piano since he was 2 years old. And even though I was told he's not going to walk, but he's walked onto Carnegie Hall. He's walked onto Madison Square Garden stage and Radio City. And then this part happens, and I get emotional. But yeah, so we went from not talking to me being able to give him a microphone, and him singing in Italian with his idol Andrea Bocelli. So did I think that was going to happen 20 years ago? No. Are we done? Nowhere near done. So lots of hope still.
Wow. Thank you, Leah. You did a great job. I have a harder question for you soon. So Justin, now it's up to you. So you've broken so many barriers in the fashion world. What helped you embrace your own identity and confidence in such a visual industry, whereby it's hard enough to make it as a model, yet you've exceeded everyone's expectations? Can you tell us what your secret sauce was?
Justin, before you start talking, just move your chair in a little, because we're all watching you, and we care. Okay, we're good? We're good? Okay.
I don't really have a secret sauce, I'm not gonna lie. But when I first started in my career, I honestly didn't want to start. I just started off by sharing my story on social media. I was in high school, and I was just looking for a sense of community. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school, middle school, but I knew like the internet was so large and there were so many people. So my idea was like, maybe if I share some of the things that I'm going through, there will be other people that can relate. So that's kind of how I started. As far as the world of modeling, it can get really challenging. your success is based off of your performance and appearance. And if you don't have thick skin, it'll consume you, you know? So I think just having that community, and having people that I trust, people that I care about to kind of keep me uplifted, is extremely important. Because in any creative realm, you're gonna get 1,000 no's before you get that one yes, you know? So just staying consistent, staying focused, and you talked about hope. Like, faith without works is dead, you know? So just having hope and faith, but also like putting the work in, understanding the craft, learning from the models that came before me was something that it took me a few years to realize, but it's all important, you know? So just like any other field, studying the people that came before you, paying homage to them, and kind of paying it forward to the people that are gonna come after you also, like, pays dividends in the long run.
Perseverance, you certainly have. I've seen it firsthand. Thank you. Dr. I, back to you. What is the greatest need that you see outside the medical side for this community?
That's a really great question. You know, again, as I alluded to before, I think it's really, really important for us medical professionals to go beyond the medical and to find other ways to help the community. I think the greatest need is visibility. I think the world needs to see the grade 8. I think the world needs to see my face. I think the world needs to see these stories. Resilience, accomplishment, stuff that they don't think is even real or they may never think could exist. I think if people could really see the community, if people could really understand the talent that is there, then the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do and how far we can build the community up. I think medical professionals have an important role to play in that. We can kind of tell a little bit of both sides of the story. You know, we can set the stage for how triumphant these individuals are. If you knew what they were up against to start, you would never, you know, predict where they would end. That's something that's really important for me in my practice. I get to a point where I level with every parent, and we go through all the realistic things, all the realistic challenges that they're real. Like they're going to be there. They might be there. They need to know about that. But I never end with that. I never end with that. I always bring it back to the fact we don't know how far this individual is going to go. And so our approach is going to be to do everything we can as if they're going to go all the way. And so I just think that the world needs to know what's happening in the community. The world needs to see these individuals for who they really are. I think the medical professionals have a big role to play in that. And as we craft these stories together, I think there's going to be an outpouring of love and support that the community, I think, needs and deserves.
Okay, Logan, this one's for you. Logan, your music moves people. What does the piano feel like for you, and how does it help you express yourself?
Music doesn't see a diagnosis, a disability, or a difference. And when I'm playing, that is the only time people actually see me. And that's why music is my language.
Well, Logan, I hear you for sure. Absolutely. All right, let's go back to Justin. We got him off easy last time. All right, Justin. How do you encourage your students and athletes to challenge perceptions of themselves and others?
I think that's an interesting question, right? So I think the biggest thing for me with dealing with any athlete is just building that relationship, right? Like, I'm dealing with college kids. Some of them may be out of state. Some of them come from crazy backgrounds. And I think a lot of them just look for somebody that just truly cares about them. So I usually just start there. Before I can tell a kid that they need to work on this and work on that, or give them some constructive criticism, I just start by building that relationship first, because it'll go a long way. And I just try to get them to understand that society's gonna try to put you in a box no matter who you are. And it's up to you to decide whether you want to stay there or you want to move out or grow out of it, you know? These kids go through some unimaginable things. And I'm not far apart in age from them, but the difference in generation is just, it's a lot. You're dealing with social media, high expectations, like all these kinds of things that weren't around necessarily when I was in school or before me. So they're dealing with a lot of different things. So I just try to, you know, be there for them. A lot of them, I'm a dad, I'm a big brother. They call me Unc, I'm an Unc. So I just try to do my best just to be a listening ear also, because a lot of people just don't feel heard. Sometimes people just want to feel heard. I get a lot of times, they call me Stu, like I'm Coach Stu. So they're like, Stu, I don't want your advice, I just want you to listen. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like I won't, we listen and we don't judge, you know? Like I listen and I just try to be that listening ear. So again, just having them understand that no matter who you are, that box will be there. And just, again, being that sense of community for them is extremely, extremely important.
To my next question. Thanks, Justin. So Dr. I talked about my experience within the community. Can you share a little bit about some of the experiences you've had with your patients and how you've become a better, a more heartfelt, warm doctor?
Yeah, I don't know that people always think of surgeons as being heartfelt and warm.
Exactly. I mean, you do. You are.
You know what, as I said in the beginning, there's a large part of my heart, of my emotion that goes into my practice. I love my patients. I see their successes as my own. And so it's always been natural to me, at least with my own patients within my own practice, to build bridges that go beyond the typical patient-doctor relationship. As you said, it's a little bit of my calling card. I really like to connect with parents, expecting mothers. That early side of things has really been my wheelhouse. And over the years, I just feel like the patients continually teach me an important lesson, which is, as just alluded to, you cannot ever judge them. You cannot ever be the person to put them in the box. If we're gonna be really an advocate to the community, we have to be someone that they rely on to always see the best in them and always go for it. Sometimes going for it involves doing the 26th surgery after 25 have not worked out the right way. Sometimes that's what's going for it. Sometimes going for it is the exact opposite of that. I think of a young man who I inherited from a different doctor. He had had 13 surgeries. He was coming to me for the 14th revision. And a lot of surgeons would just say, hey, okay, let's sign up. I can do this, I can do that, I can change everything. That's gonna make me feel better. But what I was struck by with this young man is when he was talking about the surgeries, he was talking about it as if it was something he had to do, not something that he wanted to do. And we spent an entire visit just breaking that down. Like, why do you feel like you need to do this? And it took another visit before we got to the point where it was clear that what he needed wasn't more surgery. He just needed to be heard, to be seen for who he was, and for someone to validate the fact that you don't have to go another step. So, you know, I just think that what I try to build into my practice is, again, connecting with each individual as an individual, seeing them for who they are beyond their craniofacial difference. I'm absolutely here to help with surgeries and whatnot. That's my skill set. But if you need something else, I'm going to try to do my best in that arena as well. And that's what my patients have taught me.
That's what makes you unique. Does anybody have a question you'd like to ask? I just had two more for the panel. Does anyone have a question that maybe they want to throw at the panel? What can you possibly want to ask?
I understand, and I think it's commendable to have that attitude. But how do you deal, it's gotta be draining to be that way, to be a good person all the time. I mean, I have problems picking. I have to stop myself sometimes to say, that's the wrong thought. How do you handle the drain? It's gotta be tremendous.
Is that for me?
I was gonna say, if you ask my wife, I don't think I'm a good person. You know what? We have great help in our practice. I would be remiss not to bring up my nurse practitioners that work with me, my support staff. They're all in this with me. You know, we have crafted a practice where we try to do the right thing as much as we can. We don't know, it doesn't always work out. You know, there's definitely instances where someone may have felt, I needed more from you and you weren't able to deliver. I have to sleep with that, you know, those failures, that does happen. Or we made an attempt to go for the 26th out of, 27, and it didn't go well. So there's a realistic side to the coin too. Life is not all, cranberries and roses, as they say. But when we do have successes, the privilege of seeing young individuals grow up and then come into their own power, which is what you guys have done. You guys have come into your own power in your own individual way. And to me, that's like the most beautiful thing that you could see as a physician, as a member, as someone who supports the community. You don't need me to validate you anymore. You guys know that you're awesome. Bill, we pay him to tell you that you're awesome as well. But you guys are awesome, and everyone can see that now. You know what I mean? But I'm sure you can all think back to the beginning where that confidence wasn't there, that validation wasn't there, and needed to come externally. That's the bridge that I try to help with. Let's get off to a good start. Let me help you, and then you're gonna turn around and you're gonna pay me back in spades when I get to see what you do.
I think it's a great point. So along those lines, we can make a difference when someone's asked for some help. And it's David Santiago. For those of you that did take the yoga class, David designed the yoga studio. One of his claims to fame. Another is he's a board member of MyFace. And there was a young girl, her name is Annabelle, who was looking to get into college for interior design. And David, interior design, and he stepped forward and called 1 million people in Manhattan to try to help Annie get into school. And she got into school, and she's now a junior, right?
And your school of interior design?
Yeah, that's Annabelle right there.
I reached out to the dean on her behalf.
So again, we all can play a role. We just have to ask the members of the community to ask us for some help, because I guarantee you, there's not a single person that wouldn't step up, not a single one. So Annie actually helped David design the studio. So again, David bringing Annie and putting it forward, so that Annie has a life experience. And for those of you in the studio, you can see the beauty in what they did there, and the energy when you walk in that room. It was not by accident. It was by David's design with Annie in developing it. So, David, I forgot to mention you before, I'm sorry about that, but David sits on the board and he's an amazing, amazing board member. Anyone else have a question before I just have a few more for the panel? We're good? Okay, so we're just going to ask Leah just this quick question. Can you just talk a little bit about the impact that the MyFace community has made in your life with Logan?
So I actually wasn't really ready for the MyFace community when he was little, It was actually very hard for me, to hear your story, and then I now have to worry about you too, on top of what we're going through. So I wasn't ready for a long time, and then I did meet Dina, and Logan got to perform at a talent show. And one of the kids who was also performing went on his own to guide Logan, to help him on stage, where somebody else who doesn't necessarily have anything else that they may be dealing with wouldn't have done that, wouldn't have reached out that hand. And literally from that day, that's all that they've been doing. They came out to watch him perform at Radio City. They cheer him on, in anything he does. I'm buying his music, you know what I mean? Like, I'm voting for her because I want her to win this New Jersey. This is what it is. Like, they're in their 20s, and like I mentioned, I call them my kids. These are my kids. You know what I mean? There you go. I root for them like I root for him, and I always will. I'll fight for them the way I fight for him. That's what my faith community is.
So we'll have one more question, and then we're going to ask Austin to come up, and he's going to sing a song for us, one that he wrote. Which one are you going to sing tonight?
Whatever you want.
I'll let you pick. But just one last question, and just before that, I just want to tell you a quick story about Austin. So we had a big packing party, we called it, where we give away backpacks for moms having a baby with a facial difference. I think we're giving away something like 600 now around the country. And we had this big packing party, and we asked Austin if he wouldn't mind singing. Well, Luisa, who has known Dina and is like older sister, Dina is an older sister to Luisa in many aspects. Luisa was watching Austin perform. She grabbed Courtney's phone and was recording him. And another member of our community took a picture of that. And if that does not exactly state what we want to have happen, and that's inclusivity for everyone at every age, that did it for me. And I still have that picture because it means the world to me to know that my little daughter didn't care about anything but Austin Halls. Oh my God. And Enzo and Austin Halls in my house is all the time. So the fact that he's staring at you right now, Austin, wondering if he's going to be able to come say hi to you. So last question for the panel, we'll just go right down. What message do you hope people take away from tonight's conversation?
There's a lot of good ones. I think get involved with the community, show your support, show your love. These are amazing people. There's a lot of work to be done. We can all do much better than what we're doing, and we can get there by working together.
Yeah.
I guess from a parent's perspective is you know your child best. There's a lot of educators, therapists, whoever comes your way is going to try to tell you they know what's best, and they don't. It's always you. As for the kids, never take no for an answer. Keep knocking, and you'll get there.
Love your mother.
I guess my message would be same thing I've been reiterating. Community is everything. Things like this that bring people together is just so important. And rely on the people that you have in your life. Like, closed mouths don't get fed. If you need help with something, there are people there that are willing to help you, support you in any way possible. And that's what the Grade 8 has been for me for a very long time. Grade 9, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. Shout out to where did we? Divine 9 now? So
Oh, I like that.
shout out to you guys.
Like that. So Austin, you're gonna make your way up here, right? Come on up. So let me just thank a few people for tonight. Of course, we have to thank Irene from Humble and Courtney, who really spearheaded this, and Jody and Dean from Roots. Thank you so much. You're great neighbors. Really appreciate you. Of course, Sophia, Corinne, thank you. You smile every time I walk in, not sure why. Thank you. And Jeff, unfortunately, Jeff Troy's not here. He's a gentleman whose vision is to redevelop this whole area. So Jeff took a stab at us at Humble and obviously with Roots, and it couldn't be a nicer environment to be in and be around for sure. And then of course our instructors who we love so much, Ailish, and I don't know who else is here, but Ailish, raise your hand. She's Pilates extraordinaire, and who else? Oh, and Anthony, sorry Anthony.